is that darn Karaite Jew? They're making us ravenous look horrible.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.
Ni Yehovah Halakam Elodie Nobranan Amahe Yusam Balahe Yahako.
Shalom and welcome again to another exciting edition of Torah Watchman Show International LLC, a genuine 501c3 registered company based out of Maryland, registered to the federal government, where any kind of charitable deduction amount that you would like to donate to my organization and my company is tax deductible. Yes, it is. There's a lot of companies out there. They need to write off their debt and profit margin and their accounting and everything through their CPAs and everything else. They need to show some sort of charitable contribution, even though there are federal limits for that. But why not give it to an organization, a self-started organization, CEO, manager of my company, than a disabled Gulf War veteran? Listen, yes, I'm advertising myself, because I have no advertising department. I have no overhead whatsoever. What goes in, goes out to the field. I hope everyone's been well. None other here than your favorite Karaite Jew, Hakam Yar ben-Emmett. God bless you. And now it's time for another Torah cycle reading. Shalom and welcome to another exciting edition of Torah Watchman Show. Available to Google subscribers through YouTube. If you don't have an email account, which is free with Google, they don't pay me to say this. It's very easy to be able to go and watch all kinds of content, much as it's free. If you like movies and things like that nature, you don't even have to buy a premium account, but I have a premium account with YouTube, and it gives me a lot of options I would not have with other type of streaming media. Why am I talking about this? I just want you to go to YouTube and watch my videos. Why? Not because of getting rich, because you may get rich spiritually. You know, I do a lot of research and deep diving for you in a variety of many subject content material that you may not think is important, but when you put it all together, it becomes really juicy and becomes really fascinating and interesting. Anyway, I hope everyone's been well. I have for you this video, a Torah Parashat. In Torah Parashat, we're in Vayakanan. It essentially means I entreated or begged or implored. In those operative words, we're talking Moshe, entreating, begging, screaming, trying to get his last will and testament there was only to save the lives, both physical and spiritual, of the 12 tribes of Israel before God called him home. Yeah, essentially what? Moshe is known as the most humblest person that's ever lived, the greatest of all prophets. He was, of course, in the Levitical line as well. He could co-op as a chief priest. He was not nominated for that, but Elohim nominated him, for the only person in existence and ever will exist again, to speak to him directly, without night vision, without any kind of roundabout kind of reasoning, like the prophets of blessed memory, how Elohim reached out to them. Anyway, Moshe is toward the end of his life. He knows that. Elohim told him that. So what are you going to do with on your kick the bucket list? What are you going to do? Are you going to go to a faraway country? You can go on a world cruise. What are you going to do? Spend every last shekel you have in your bank account on yourself? What are you going to do? Well, his biggest heartfelt pledge before Elohim and the people was to win over their hearts and souls, because he knew what was going to happen in the future, because he was also a great Navim and prophet. But let's get started. Pull over my notes here. Yes, I do take copious note and try to save time, right? Again, the general overview is what I just gave you the intro. Moshe continues to his attempt to reach out to the Jewish people, Yehudim, just about ready to depart in the land of Canaan, okay? Which is a big scary place and big scary people and very large walled cities that seems as insurmountable to be able to conquer those Canaanite pagan nations. But you know, Elohim had told them, I will fight for you, I'll send my fighting angels ahead of you, and I've always put terror in their hearts. They will fall like a stack of dominoes. You ever seen stacking dominoes, and you just push them, and it makes every domino fall in line, whatever design pattern you have. I played with that when I was a kid anyway, not germane. Also, the reinforcement of the Ten Commandments, the reinforcement that Torah, like a rabbinical Judaism teaches in yeshivas around the world, only the Ten Commandments, written on stone, written, not orally transmuted. You could say maybe orally transmitted from Elohim to Moshe to give to the Jewish people, and then circulated among the judges and chief priests and legislated through the Levitical priesthood. You can say that. But as far as oral Torah was not a separate complement, that Elohim said, oh, excuse me, Moshe, I almost forgot. Rabbi Akiva whispered in my ear, I need to give you something else, you know. You won't understand this Torah, you know, unless you read these 100 volumes of books explaining what oral Torah is and explaining what I'm trying to tell you, you know. Anyway, I'm being facetious, but it's kind of ridiculous too. I had to say that. So in the first Aliyah, Moshe recounts how he pleaded with Elohim to allow him to enter the land of Israel. This was his dream. I mean, because of the sins of the people, their mission was circumvented by 40 years, wandering in the wilderness, right? And Moshe wanted to see the promised land. But you know, Elohim had compassion. Remember, Moshe disobeyed Elohim before the midst of the people. The image of Elohim was upon his chosen servant, Moshe. And that's something to understand when Elohim issues blessings and punishments. How are you rendering the image of Elohim before other people? But anyway, there was a compromise. Of course, Elohim took Moshe up on a mountain peak to a point where he could see most, if not all, the land of Israel. Israel is not a very large country, but he could see the mountainous regions up north, like where Lebanon and where Golan Heights is, and all the way down to the Negev Desert, down into the Red Sea, in those areas there. But you know, there was a reason. I don't think Moshe sinned such a great sin in that God had to punish him so severely. I think Elohim was looking in the future. I mean, people were just tied to Moshe too tightly. You hear about don't be a helicopter parent. Well, Elohim did not want Moshe to be a helicopter parent forever. And he became a figurehead, a public figure, and then people were not listening to Elohim, looking for Elohim in their individualistic lives. They're always going to Moshe to see Elohim. Remember at the mountain of Sinai, when Elohim and his greatness and glory manifest upon that mountaintop, all the smoke, lightning and thunder, earthquakes, the people of Israel were terrified, and they begged Moshe at that time, don't allow Jehovah God to speak to us, we will die. you go before them, before Elohim, and you speak to us on behalf of Elohim. And this was the plan, and it worked out. So in the second Aliyah, Moshe implores the Israelites to always treasure the Torah. I love the verses, the Sidra portion where it says the Torah is neither too high for you, too low for you, too deep in the ocean, too far on Mount Everest, in across dimensional time. It is not too difficult for you to keep the 613 mitzvot, which are in the weed requirements, breakouts from the 10 Commandments. The total spoken canonized word of the Torah were the 5 books of the Torah and the other expositions through generational time, through the major and minor prophets and the sacred writings. So again, Moshe could see the future. Most of the Israelites, maybe with the exception of Yahshua and Caleb, they just could not see beyond their hand. They couldn't see the futuristic outcomes, negative and positive, of their choices. They just could not see that. I don't know why. It was just a different time of humanity during that time. I'm not sure. But with all the miracles of the parting Red Sea, the 10 plagues against Egypt, the utter defeat of the Egyptian army, the defeat of the Amalekites, the defeat of other tribal people, essentially giants, Og and Sihon and others, the defeat of the Moabites and the Midianites and those adversaries that did their best to wipe out Israel. I don't know. And you would say to yourself today, if I had all those miracles today, sure, I would believe. The whole point is, of the story is, and others, and the Tanakh in general, is that miracles do not save you. Your choices save you. When you ask for wisdom from Jehovah God to be imparted to you, reading the Torah, living the Torah in every single aspect. Again, the Torah is not impossible to learn. It's not impossible to understand. Sure, it was an ancient tongue of Hebrew. We probably wouldn't even recognize the character set back then, 3,500 years ago. We borrowed from Phoenician tongue, maybe a Canaanite tongue, maybe Mesopotamian tongue. We're not sure to this day. But the character set we have in the Torah too maintains, like in a military guy, maintains commander intent, from the King of the universe. So there were various revelations that Moshe was trying to depart to the Jewish people. He wanted to make sure that they would, people that survived to the point to cross the River Jordan into the land of Canaan. Remember, all the rebellious generations over a period of time for 40 years had died out. Now we're talking about children and grandchildren. And Moshe said, I want you to pass on what I've told you through your children's children. Now, rabbinists may call this oral Torah. Well, these are actually, according to Karaitism, this is called simple customs and traditions and courtesies. It really is. And if a child has a question about something was told by a parent, the parent's not going to go into a diatribe of opinionated reasoning and interpretation. He said, read the Torah. When I asked my father when I was a young boy, about why is the sky blue? What makes thunder after lightning? You see a flash of lightning. He could have told me the short answer based on his interpretation, but what he did, he bought me a set of encyclopedias, encouraged me to read and find the information myself. This is essentially what Moshe was saying. I've told you the absolute Emmett truth. Relay that absolute Emmett truth to your children and their children's children by expositions of the Torah. Okay? So the assurances that Elohim would never forsake the Jewish people. We just had Tisha B'Av, and there were reassurances of many rabbis around the world that despite how horrific things are in Israel, all the protests and everything going on in Tel Aviv, the insurrection, I would say, against the right-wing or Torah-centered Knesset. I don't know what you believe and trust in all of this. What your political view is not germane here. What I'm trying to say is there are 5 mosques on Har Abayit. Even though there are temple institutes talking about, the red heifer, talking about all the materials that would be used to assemble to build a temple in the future, according to Ezekiel's blueprints. There were 1,700 people that went up to Temple Mount on Tisha B'Av, and I think that may have been a big number, maybe a historical record. I'm sure there were also thousands of people at the Kotel, at the Western Wall as well. But I encourage my Jewish people in Israel, until at least I get there, climb higher, go farther. We can do better than what we've done so far. And of course, the chief rabbis in Israel said, according to the Torah, any Jew is forbidden to transverse or ascend up to Temple Mount. It's not against the Torah, folks, it's against rabbinical Judaism, the opinionated interpretation of the Torah. I'm sorry, I had to put that in here because, we're just going through this holiday, and I hope we learn something from our past mistakes. And I heard one rabbi said very astutely that we blame the Babylonians on the destruction of King Solomon temple. Yes, they were the implementers of that destruction, and so was Titus and Hadrian and other evil people in the Roman Empire. But if it wasn't for our sins, Elohim would not have used these adversarial nation states against us. And there was a multitude and nexus of sins, reached critical mass of judgment. And Moshe was talking about this in this portion for this Parashat, that your descendants will be in exile. Can you imagine hearing that? That Moshe said, I'm going to die soon. I'm going to leave this place. You're going to cross the river Jordan. You're going to be under new leadership. Joshua or Yahshua, he will lead you. At the same time, you will end up, after you cross, your great-great-grandchildren will be exiled because of the parents' sins. You think you would have, we put more trust in pagans like Nostradamus than in real prophets, real Navim of Jehovah God. Is amazing, right? So the third Aliyah, Moshe designates 3 cities of refuge, essentially where Jordan is today, okay? Gad and Reuben, and half of the tribe of Manasseh. Shimon and half the tribe of Manasseh were sheep herders, and they were in that area, and there were 45 cities left over from the Edomites and other adversarial nations that were defeated. So there would be 3 of those cities. I don't know the total number of the cities east of the Jordan River were, but 3 would be designated for refugees. These are essentially people that committed, I guess, 2nd or 3rd degree homicide, but unintentional murders and fatalities and things of this nature, okay? And the 4th Aliyah, Moshe emphasizes the 10 Commandments again, reminding Israelites that Sinai covenant was not limited to those who were physically present at Mount Sinai. In other words, you received the covenant, O Israel. When I ascended up to Mount Sinai twice and brought down the 10 Commandments, these are 2 covenants. The first one was broken. If that was what would have been accepted, that would have been the golden age of Israel during that time. You're talking about we praying for the Mashiach today, where there would be no need for that if they would accept the first covenant. Think about that. And then they had to go through the golden calf. And then they received the second covenant, which essentially was equivalent to the Yom Kippur and the Rosh Hashanah, and the beginning of their year and the beginning of their life with a clean slate. But they witnessed all of that, and they passed that down to their children at that time. All the generation of the time of the Mount Sinai, when they were in camp in the valley below that mountaintop, they received that covenant and they told their children about it. Now their children in this time frame, 40 years later essentially, are getting ready to cross the river Jordan, and now Moshe is reiterating that covenant. Okay? They received redemption, even though they made many mistakes. I made mistakes either. We're only human. But this covenant goes with you. You don't have to be at Mount Sinai to be able to embrace that covenant. Even in the exile, it's preferable that we all move to Israel like yesterday. But being in America, being in India, being in Australia, being in Poland and Germany, in Egypt and Morocco and elsewhere throughout the world, and we're spread out, all over the place, it seems like. The hand of Jehovah is there. His angels in Malachim are there watching us. Why? Because Moshe said, Jehovah God has assured me, despite your sin in the past, I will always preserve a remnant to myself. My hand will always be with you. I will never leave you. Even if you're carried off in prison, in exile, and slavery, in another nation, I will preserve a remnant. I will preserve a remnant. And this is very conciliatory to give to that I see the future for you as not always going to be a bed of roses. There's a lot of difficult challenges ahead of you, but you can do it. You can do it. Okay? The fifth aliyah, Moshe describes the fright which gripped the nation following the immediate revelation. I reiterated this, that fright should not be transitioned to something called fear. There are realities in Canaan yet that will be frightening to them. But we talk about the trembling knee before Jehovah. We talk about submission to God in prayer and redemption that we hear throughout Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. That fear can be positive to bring us to where God wants us to be. The sixth aliyah, getting close to this Parashat ending in a summation at least. This section, the Sidra portion, introduces the Shema prayer, which is probably the oldest and most sacred prayer that we, to this day, all Jews everywhere, no matter who you are, or what you are, or what color your face is, you say your Shema prayer in the morning, you say your Shema prayer in the evening, and it's the last thing we say when we know we're dying, the last words, or our loved ones say that over us when we die. Very sacred prayer essentially says that our Lord God is one and only one, and there's no other. And it's a terrific prayer because it's the most unifying prayer. Essentially, as the least common denominator is Am Yisrael Chai. When we say that Shema, angels listen, Jehovah listens, and it unites us briefly in that microcosm of universality. It is supernatural, and I encourage you to say that prayer if you haven't said it in a long time. Very, very important, but it's reiterated in this section of Davarim, okay? Elohim's promise to give the Israelites a land filled with bounty and spoils. So not only will you conquer these adversarial nations, the Canaanites, and there were many nations of Canaanites there. There were many nations of Canaanites in the time of Abraham. Not only will you conquer them, you will take over their cities, you take over their towns and communities, you will take their gold, their cattle, the sheep, everything. Everything will be yours. So if you tell them there's a hidden treasure for you, over there, over that mountain, through the woods, over the river, maybe it's a little bit encouraging for the youngsters there. Said, wow, we are adventurous, we can explore this. Elohim said he's going to be with us. Moshe has never lied to us. Why would Elohim lie to us? So you can just imagine the series of emotions that was going on to the people. Many of them were afraid. The same people that were afraid when the first 12 spies went to Canaan, and then the rejection of that promise. They're still afraid. And to be human is be afraid. But even when you are afraid, you can guarantee Jehovah God, he will hold your hand and walk you through it. He really will. Okay. The reminder that we once were slaves in Egypt, but we don't always have to adopt that slave mentality, right? Now, it's been a long time since Moshe took the Hebrew nation out of Goshen, Egypt, and crossed the Red River and eventually to the Promised Land. But the mentality of even American Jews, I swear, they want to go back to Egypt. Every time they Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, they beat their chest and they said, I'm sorry, Please forgive me. Please open the books of life. Make sure my name is etched in there. Another good year for us. But you know, at the end of the day, we're more comfortable with our Egypt. For me, Egypt is America. Okay? For someone in another country, Egypt is Poland, Australia, Great Britain, you know, Germany, Ireland, Scotland, South America, all these countries are your Egypt essentially. They're your Egypt because you're still there. And I mean, we're waiting on Mashiach. I guess I'm waiting on Mashiach too. I'm actually waiting to be serious with you, to pay off my debts and get to retirement age. Everyone wants to retire at some point in time. I don't want to go to Arizona or Florida. I don't want to go to North Dakota. I want to go to Ashdod, Israel. May we all say amen. Okay, wrapping this up. The seventh Aliyah, the Israelites are directed to utterly destroy the inhabitants of Canaan along with their idols, and the prohibition against intermarriage is discussed. Okay, let me explain a little bit what's said in that brief sentence. Okay, something that military leaders in Israel has not realized. Okay, the Canaanites were utterly unredeemable. Okay, they have been committing sins at least since the time of Abraham and not before. I mean, murderous people, cruel to the vulnerable, the same kind of sins that have ultimately led to the Great Flood. They were unredeemable. And this included the women and children too, unfortunately. And to my knowledge, not many of them were even saved through the various military exploits of Israel. They die fighting kind of people, kamikaze kind of people too. But you know, evil is evil, and it must be utterly, completely wiped out and destroyed. You see what's happening in Israel among Hamas and Hezbollah and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Islamic Jihad, and other Islamic extremist groups there. You see it there. And we always, in Israel, Tukum Alam, or whatever, we don't want to commit Lashon Hara. We don't want to commit the same sins against our adversaries that they did to us to try to wipe us off the face of the earth. And it seems like our zakar, our memory, is very fading and very weak, right? But at some point in time, how many missiles need to hit your kibbutz in the Negev desert before you realize these people want to kill you? I mean, not only do you need to protect yourself and shield yourself with the missiles, you need to kill and exterminate the enemy that's launching the missiles. You need to eliminate their entire military resource capabilities there to launch attack ever again. Gaza was a beautiful tourist area, 2005 or before 2015 or so. But we turned it over to the Palestinians and then turned it into essentially a boot camp, even raising children to hate Jews in their schools and to commit atrocity against the Jewish people. And we still have not learned from that. But again, Israel did, history be our guide. History 2020, and the Israeli nation did wipe out this Canaanite nation just as Elohim said they would. Just as Elohim said they would. They wiped out those nations. God keeps his promise, but we need to keep our promise to Elohim as well. Well, take care. This is Hakam, your ben-Emmett signing out to the next time. Please tune in to this channel for regular updates. And, before you say, I missed that red-haired carded Jew, I'll be right back with another exciting Torah lecture or documentary or some important thing that I need to get to you. I fall on my face for inspiration of God. And when I get that information, I get that excitement with me, like Pinchas. May we all aspire to that kind of Zionist spirit within him. I just have to do another video. But you motivate me more than anything else because I love to speak to you. And I want to say Shalom Aleichem. Take care. And God bless you. Whoever and wherever you are in the world, just know that God has a plan for your life. He wants to uplift you. He wants to forgive you. He wants to restore you. Let me say all, amen.